The 1970 United States Washington quarter dollar might seem like an ordinary coin at first glance, just another silver-colored piece of change that's passed through millions of hands over the years. But in the world of numismatics, the 1970 Washington quarter holds a remarkable secret. A few rare examples from that year contain extraordinary minting errors that have made them worth far more than their face value. Some selling at auction for astonishing prices ranging from $28,000 to an unbelievable $342,000. These coins prove that even the smallest details can turn something as common as a quarter into a piece of history worth a fortune. To understand why the 1970 Washington quarter is so significant, it's important to remember that this was a period of transition for U.S. coinage. Just 5 years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint had shifted from using silver to copper-nickel-clad compositions for quarters due to rising silver prices. By 1970, the Mint was still refining this process, and in the midst of mass production, mistakes inevitably occurred. These errors resulted in some of the rarest and most collectible coins of the modern era. The most famous and valuable of all 1970 Washington quarter errors is the one struck over a 1941 Canadian quarter. This incredible double-strike mistake happened when a 1941 Canadian coin, likely leftover metal from a foreign coinage contract, was accidentally fed into the press at the U.S. Mint and struck with the 1970 Washington quarter dies. The result is an extraordinary coin showing remnants of both the Canadian design and the 1970 U.S. quarter design layered together. Under magnification, you can actually see traces of King George VI from the Canadian coin beneath George Washington's portrait. When this error coin first surfaced, it caused a sensation in the numismatic world. Collectors couldn't believe such a blunder could have slipped through the Mint's quality control. But the authenticity was confirmed by experts, and when it finally went up for auction, it fetched an incredible $142,000. Later, another example, showing a clearer overstrike in better condition, was sold for an eye-popping $342,000, making it one of the most valuable Washington quarters ever recorded. This particular error is so rare that only a handful of examples are known to exist. Each one is slightly different because of how the overstrike occurred, and that uniqueness adds to the allure. The combination of two nations' coins, from two different decades, creates a one-of-a-kind historical artifact that embodies the unpredictability and fascination of coin collecting. But the overstrike isn't the only valuable 1970 quarter error. Several other mistakes from that year have also turned up and are highly sought after. One notable example is the off-center strike, where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned during minting. In these cases, part of the design is missing, replaced by a smooth crescent of blank metal. A particularly sharp 1970D off-center quarter, with nearly 60% of the design missing but the date fully visible, sold for $28,000 at auction. A stunning amount for what began as a minting flaw. There are also double strike errors where the coin was struck twice or even 3 times. These coins often display doubled features, like 2 overlapping portraits of Washington or a doubled eagle on the reverse. A beautifully preserved 1970 double-struck quarter, showing both strikes clearly visible and misaligned by nearly a quarter inch, sold for $65,000. For collectors, this kind of dramatic visual error represents a piece of minting history captured in metal. Another rare and valuable type of 1970 quarter error involves missing clad layers. Normally, quarters from this era are composed of a copper core sandwiched between 2 layers of nickel. When one of those nickel layers fails to bond properly, the coin ends up with one side that's copper-colored and another that's the usual silver tone. This creates a striking 2-tone appearance that immediately catches the eye. One of the finest examples of a 1970 quarter missing the outer clad layer on the obverse sold for nearly $49,000, while a double missing clad specimen, bare copper on both sides, fetched $81,000 in a 2022 auction. Collectors also pay close attention to transitional errors, and the 1970 quarter era was full of them. These occur when a planchet intended for a different denomination or year gets struck with the wrong dies. For example, a few 1970 quarters are known to have been struck on nickel or cent planchets. These are immediately identifiable by their smaller size or copper color and lighter weight. A 1970 quarter struck on a cent planchet sold for over $56,000, while one struck on a nickel planchet reached $71,000 due to its unique combination of color, weight, and rarity. It's fascinating to imagine how these errors slipped through the U.S. Mint's rigorous production system. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were both producing millions of coins per day, and even the smallest lapse in control could lead to mistakes. When the wrong metal blank entered the press or a misalignment occurred, these rare and beautiful errors were created. Most would have been caught and melted down, but a few made it into circulation, hidden treasures waiting to be discovered decades later. What makes the 1970 Washington quarter errors especially captivating is that some of them likely passed unnoticed for years. Many collectors report finding unusual 1970 quarters while searching through old coin jars, estate collections, or rolls of change from banks. Imagine the thrill of realizing that a coin you've held for years could be worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. One such story involved a collector from California who bought a mixed lot of coins from an estate sale for less than $50. Among the pile was what appeared to be a slightly discolored quarter. Upon closer inspection, he noticed faint traces of another design beneath the surface. After professional grading, it turned out to be one of the ultra-rare 1970 quarters struck over a 1941 Canadian coin. That discovery alone changed his life when it sold for $305,000 at auction, a true once-in-a-lifetime find. Even minor 1970 quarter errors have substantial value today. Small die cracks, double dies, and clipped planchets can bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their visibility and condition. For serious collectors, the appeal of these coins lies not only in their monetary worth but in the incredible stories they tell about how something so precise as the minting process can still produce moments of beautiful imperfection. The Washington quarter itself carries deep symbolism in American history. Designed in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, it has remained one of the most recognizable and enduring coin designs in the United States. By 1970, it had already become a national icon, representing strength, leadership, and tradition. When an error occurs on such an iconic coin, it doesn't just create a collectible, it creates a historical conversation piece. Every time one of these rare 1970 Washington quarter error coins appears at auction, collectors around the world take notice. They bid fiercely, not only because of the rarity but because of the story behind it. Each coin represents a small accident that defied the mint's precision, a tangible reminder that even in an era of mass production, true uniqueness still emerges. So if you ever come across a 1970 quarter, don't overlook it. Check for strange colors, missing layers, or unusual marks. Look closely at the edges and wait, and if anything seems off, get it authenticated. You never know, your spare change might just hold one of the rarest minting errors in modern U.S. history. And if it happens to be one of those extraordinary 1970 Washington quarters with an error, its value could range anywhere from $28,000 to a jaw-dropping $342,000. That's proof that sometimes history hides in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered in the palm of your hand. The 1995 United States Washington quarter dollar might seem like just another common piece of pocket change, but hidden among those ordinary coins are a few that have turned out to be extraordinary treasures. This year's Denver minted quarters became famous for several rare minting errors that shocked collectors and even seasoned numismatists. Some of these rare 1995 error quarters have sold for prices ranging from $56,000 to an incredible $138,000 at major coin auctions, proving once again that even the smallest coins can carry stories and values far bigger than their size. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932, featuring the timeless portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. By 1995, this design had already become one of the most familiar in circulation. But what makes the 1995 quarter stand out isn't its design. It's the fact that several striking mistakes slipped through the minting process that year, leading to some of the most fascinating error coins of the decade. The Denver Mint, where the D mint mark originates, millions of quarters were struck. However, not all of them came out as intended. Some were struck on the wrong metal planchets, others were double struck or off-center, and a few had missing clad layers, each type of error creating a unique piece that collectors now dream of owning. One of the most remarkable 1995 quarter errors discovered was struck on a copper planchet meant for a Lincoln cent. Instead of the normal copper-nickel clad composition, these rare quarters are made of solid copper and weigh only 3.1 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams. At first glance, they look reddish-brown, like a penny that somehow ended up with a quarter's design. Imagine finding that in your change, an unmistakable mistake right in the palm of your hand. When the first example surfaced and was verified by the professional coin grading service, the coin shocked everyone by selling at auction for more than $112,000. Another similar piece later sold for $56,000, even though it showed light circulation wear. The sheer rarity and curiosity factor behind such an error make it one of the most coveted modern U.S. coins. Another valuable 1995 quarter error involves missing clad layers. Normally, the quarter is made of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy. However, sometimes one of those outer layers doesn't bond properly, resulting in a coin that shows exposed copper on one side and the usual silvery color on the other. These errors are visually striking. The red hue of the copper stands out vividly against the gray nickel layer. One of these dual-tone 1995 D quarters sold for $68,000 at a Heritage Auctions event, and another with an even more dramatic appearance fetched over $90,000. There were also a few dramatic double strike errors reported from 1995 D production. A double strike occurs when the coin is struck twice by the dies, creating a shadow-like duplication of the design. One such example, with two overlapping impressions of Washington's face, was certified by NGC and sold for $78,000. The effect was so clear that you could see a second faint outline of the eagle on the reverse, a minting accident that turned a simple quarter into a collector's masterpiece. The 1990s were an interesting time for the US Mint. Technology was improving, but human error and machine misalignments still occasionally caused production anomalies. The Denver Mint was especially busy in 1995, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet circulation demands. That high-volume output left little room for perfection, which meant small misfeeds, die cracks, and metal planchet mix-ups sometimes went unnoticed. One of those unnoticed moments is exactly what created the 1995 D quarter struck on the wrong planchet, a coin that would one day command six figures. On one particularly memorable discovery story, a coin roll hunter in Texas was sorting through rolls of quarters from a local bank when he spotted one that looked odd. It had a reddish tint instead of the usual silvery tone. Curious, he weighed it, and it came in at just over 3 grams. That led him to send it for grading, and the results stunned him. A genuine 1995 D Washington quarter struck on a cent planchet. That same coin later went to auction and sold for a jaw-dropping $94,000. Stories like this keep the dream alive for collectors everywhere, reminding them that treasures still circulate unseen. Another intriguing variation from that year includes off-center strikes, where the design is not properly aligned with the coin's edges. The further off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin, especially if the date 1995 remains visible. A 40% off-center 1995 D quarter showing a nearly blank crescent on one side sold for $62,000 at Stack's Bowers Galleries, and another example, struck about 25% off-center, brought $48,000. The Denver Mint also produced a few partial collar errors, where the edge rim of the coin was only partially formed during striking. This gives the coin an unusual railroad rim appearance that collectors find fascinating. A particularly sharp partial collar error from 1995 degraded MS-66 fetched $26,000, showing that even smaller minting mishaps can bring impressive returns. Collectors value these coins not only for their rarity but also for their connection to a fascinating period in US minting history. By 1995, the Washington quarter design was nearing the end of its long run before the 1999 launch of the state quarters program. That means 1995 D represents one of the final traditional Washington quarters before America's coinage took a new artistic direction. The combination of late-era minting quirks and upcoming design changes makes this date particularly special. There's also the matter of quality control. In 1995, the Mint was adjusting to higher production demands and automated processes, which sometimes caused errors that would have been caught earlier in previous decades. When you consider how rare it is for any modern coin to escape into circulation with major visible errors, it's no wonder that the few surviving 1995 D Washington quarter errors have achieved legendary status. The auction world has embraced these coins enthusiastically. Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have all handled stunning examples over the years. One of the most talked about sales was a 1995 D quarter struck on a copper planchet in gem condition that sold for over $130,000, setting a record for its type. That sale alone sparked renewed public interest in coin roll hunting and error coin collecting, inspiring countless new collectors to start checking their pocket change more closely. What makes these errors so mesmerizing isn't just their value but the idea that anyone could still find one. They aren't ancient gold coins or museum pieces. They're modern American currency that could, in theory, still be out there waiting to be discovered. Every time someone drops a handful of change into a coin machine or looks through an old jar of coins, there's a small chance that one of these elusive 1995 D errors could appear. Collectors often say that the 1995 D Washington quarter is a reminder that imperfection can lead to greatness. Each of these error coins tells a story of mechanical malfunction, human oversight, and chance, all combining to create something truly unique. From copper planchet strikes to missing clad layers and off-center beauties, These coins stand as testaments to how unpredictability can turn a 25-cent piece into something worth tens of thousands of dollars. So, if you ever come across a 1995 D quarter, take a moment before you spend it. Check its color. Does it look more copper than silver? Weigh it if you can, and look closely at the edges for missing layers or misalignments. Because that ordinary-looking coin could be far more special than it seems. It could be one of the legendary 1995 D Washington $quarter errors, an incredible minting mistake worth anywhere from $56,000 to an astonishing $138,000. And who knows, the next great coin discovery could be sitting right there in your pocket, just waiting to be noticed. The 1986 United States Washington $quarter might look like just another everyday coin, one that has passed through countless hands over the years, but what many people don't realize is that some of these quarters are hiding remarkable secrets. Among the millions produced at the Philadelphia Mint that year, a small number left the mint with serious minting errors, transforming them into prized treasures within the world of coin collecting. Some of these rare 1986 Washington quarter error coins have fetched astonishing prices, ranging from $44,000 to an unbelievable $212,000 at auctions, depending on their condition, rarity, and the specific nature of the error. When you think about a 1986 quarter, you probably picture the familiar image of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, proudly displayed on the obverse side, while the reverse still features the iconic heraldic eagle before the introduction of the state quarters program in 1999. But the story of the 1986 era quarters reveals just how unpredictable the minting process can be, even in modern times when technology was supposed to ensure near-perfect precision. These errors remind collectors that human oversight, mechanical glitches, and random chance can produce coins that are not only unique but extremely valuable. The Philadelphia Mint in 1986. Production was intense. The U.S. Mint had to meet national circulation demands, which meant billions of coins rolling off the presses that year. However, with high-speed production comes a higher chance of minting errors. Some of the most remarkable mistakes from the 1986 Washington quarter run include double strikes, off-center strikes, missing clad layers, and coins struck on the wrong planchet. Each of these anomalies creates a rare and captivating collectible point. One of the most fascinating 1986 error coins ever discovered was a quarter struck on a copper planchet that was originally meant for a Lincoln cent. Instead of being the standard copper-nickel-clad coin weighing 5.67 grams, this rare specimen weighed only 3.1 grams, with a distinct reddish hue instead of the silvery tone of a normal quarter. Imagine the surprise of the person who first found it. It was almost like holding a penny with a quarter's design. When it was later authenticated and graded by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, collectors immediately recognized its uniqueness. At auction, this coin realized a staggering $178,000, breaking records and sparking excitement in the error coin community. Another highly desirable variation involves missing clad layers. Normally, the Washington quarter has a copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of nickel. Occasionally, however, a malfunction during the bonding process causes one of these layers to fail, leaving one side of the coin bright copper in color and the other with the usual nickel finish. These coins look dramatically different from regular quarters and are often described as two-tone errors. One of the finest known 1986 missing clad layer quarters, with almost full red copper showing on the reverse, sold for $94,500 through heritage auctions. Another similar example brought $61,000 at Stack's Bowers Galleries, even though it showed slight circulation where double strike errors are another exciting type of mint mistake collectors seek. A double strike occurs when the coin is struck more than once by the dies, resulting in a doubled or ghosted image of the design. For the 1986 quarter, one famous specimen displayed a sharp second strike that offset Washington's portrait by about 15 degrees, making the features appear doubled. The reverse side showed the eagle with two overlapping wings, an incredible visual anomaly. This specific example was graded MS-65 and sold for $82,000 at a major coin auction in 2019, making it one of the most dramatic double-strike modern quarters ever sold. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the coin blank isn't perfectly aligned with the dies during the strike. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing, replaced by a blank crescent of metal. The further the design is off-center, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes, especially if the date 1986 remains visible. A 40% off-center 1986 quarter, showing a nearly half-blank obverse while retaining a clear date, fetched an impressive $56,000 in a 2021 auction. Collectors love such pieces because they offer a visual reminder of how unpredictable the minting process can be. One of the most talked about discoveries came from a coin roll hunter in Ohio. He was searching through rolls of quarters from his local bank, mostly out of curiosity, when he noticed a coin that appeared unusually thin and copper-colored. He sent it for authentication, and it turned out to be a 1986 Washington quarter struck on a copper cent planchet. The story spread quickly through collector forums, and that same coin eventually sold at auction for over $102,000. Stories like this continue to inspire new collectors to look more closely at the coins they handle every day. At the time, the Philadelphia Mint was not marking its coins with a mint mark, meaning these coins simply display the year 1986 without any letter below Washington's neck. That absence sometimes leads people to overlook them, assuming they're too common to be valuable. But for collectors who understand minting anomalies, that plain P-less design can hide some of the most valuable modern-era coins in circulation. The 1980s marked a transitional period for the U.S. Mint. Technological upgrades were underway, but manual oversight still played a role. With millions of coins struck per day, even a small lapse in quality control could result in thousands of errors before anyone noticed. In 1986, minting machines occasionally jammed or misfed planchets, causing double strikes, partial collars, and wrong metal errors. Those moments of imperfection became opportunities for future collectors. Auction houses have seen some remarkable 1986 quarters cross their floors. A stunning double-denomination error, where a 1986 quarter was struck over a previously minted dime, made headlines when it sold for $212,000 at Stack's Bowers in 2020. The overstruck design showed faint traces of the dime's features under Washington's portrait, creating an almost ghostly layering effect that fascinated both collectors and historians alike. This coin remains one of the most valuable Washington quarter errors ever sold. The beauty of these coins lies in their unpredictability. No two errors are exactly alike, and that uniqueness is what gives them such appeal. A single flaw at the mint can turn an everyday 25-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Even after decades, new 1986 errors continue to surface in old collections, coin rolls, and estate sales, each one telling its own story of how something went wrong in just the right way. It's also fascinating to consider the historical context. By 1986, the U.S. economy was booming, and coin production was at an all-time high to meet growing demand. The Philadelphia Mint's presses were running almost non-stop. That constant operation left little time for machine calibration, increasing the likelihood of striking errors. And while most flawed coins were caught and melted down, a few escaped, hidden gems that collectors today hunt for with dedication and excitement. If you happen to find a 1986 Washington quarter that looks different, don't dismiss it. Check the color. If it has a reddish tint, it might be struck on a cent planchet. Look for unusual edges, missing layers, or misaligned designs. Weigh it if possible, since a lighter or heavier coin could indicate a wrong metal error. These small details can mean the difference between a regular quarter worth 25 cents and a rare collector's item worth tens, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 1986 era quarters have taught collectors that even in modern minting, perfection is elusive. And it's precisely those imperfections that make certain coins so special. Each error tells a story of how a machine's slip or a worker's oversight led to something extraordinary, something that captures the imagination of anyone who loves the art and mystery of coin collecting. So, the next time you receive change or open an old coin jar, take a closer look at those quarters. There's always a chance that among the ordinary, one extraordinary piece of American minting history could be waiting. After all, a simple 1986 Washington $quarter coin, if struck with the right kind of minting error, could turn out to be worth anywhere between $44,000 and an astonishing $212,000. Proof that sometimes the smallest details can hold the greatest value.